Looks like we're recording.
And we're recording. We're live. It's 8:15 on a Thursday morning, a chilly Thursday morning in Melbourne. I'm with Nathan Latka, who's dialing in very graciously from Austin, Texas, to spend some time with us. For the uninitiated, those heathens that don't know what you do, Nathan, why don't you just give us a very quick 1-minute overview of your journey over the last couple of years and what you're doing right now?
Well, you probably do it better than me. How'd you find my stuff?
Seeing as I follow the SaaS space and follow product type businesses, I actually really enjoy all the interviews and the different perspectives from CEOs. I think I first had your name come to me from a product manager that I hired a couple of years ago who said, "Oh, do you know this guy, Nathan?" I was a heathen and uninitiated then.
And then you fired the product manager immediately, right?
We don't do any firing; we just do the hiring. And you know, subscribed to your YouTube channel. Enjoyed watching those. Bought the book that came out last year, and have been a follower.
This bad boy.
That one.
Yeah, look at that. You got it right. He's prepared. He's prepared. Yeah, all these podcasts that's asking me to come on, and you can tell instantly which ones are prepared and which ones are not. Okay. You hear my podcast. You've got the book. Yeah, I mean, I sold my first SaaS company back in 2015, which is when I launched the podcast. And our podcast, people can find by just searching my name in iTunes, Nathan Latka. I mean, you know the drill. It's hard hitting with software founders. We talk about valuations, cash flow, equity splits, all that jazz. So we just passed 10 million downloads there and launched the magazine for SaaS founders and CEOs fairly recently as well. So it's doing well. So I'm just being hyper-focused on being kind of at the center of conversations related to anything B2B SaaS.
Yeah, beautiful. And roughly, you probably know exactly, how many CEOs have you interviewed in your
We've
time?
interviewed 2,493, of which 1,800 have been published on iTunes.
Right. And I know that on your site, if people subscribe, they can get access to a whole bunch of the data that you've got up there around LTV and CAC and all these metrics that these SaaS businesses are running.
That's right. I mean, think about it. If someone wanted to come in and listen to first off, it's a bit crazy. I did the math the other day. I mean, you do the math. You take 2,400 and what's called 90 to round times a 20-minute interview. That's 49,800 minutes. Of recorded interviews divided by 60 hours. It's 830 hours. Or if you're working a 40-hour week, that's 20 weeks. That's like half a year where all you do all week, all day long is interview SaaS founders. So someone doesn't have time to listen for half a year to all the content. So what we did is we pulled all the data points out of every interview and put it in a big Excel file at getlatka.com.
Beautiful. Fantastic. And one of the things I love about your show as well is obviously you talk about metrics, and, you know, I particularly liked your interview around, you know, the crossing the chasm recently, and I think that's, you know, where a lot of SaaS businesses want to get to is some of these challenges of going from here to here. But from our perspective, from a hiring and team building perspective, what was interesting to me, and probably where our focus is, that behind all these metrics, real people have to make decisions. When leadership groups are getting together and they're looking at our CAC sits here, our ARR is here, and we need to get to this point, people have to make decisions and pull levers, and people have to understand and interpret the data, get teams on board to make changes that they need to go. And that's what I love about SaaS businesses, is when you have support teams that are sat within the product teams and they're taking support calls and they're sat next to a lead engineer and they say something like, "That's the 5th call we've had about this issue today. We need to make some changes." You know, these things can happen. So I was just interested in your take from CEOs that you've spoken to about the importance of getting teams right and the challenges of hiring.
Yeah, I mean, hiring is always tricky, right? I mean, I have hired, call it 50 people in my life, and I've never once looked at a college resume. Today, I get people who read the book or the magazine, they reach out and say, "I want to join." My reply is always very simple. I just reply back and say, "Listen, like, you know what I'm building. Do something that makes me stop in my tracks and send me an MVP." And I'll get some people reply back. They'll do amazing work. They'll build little widgets related to SaaS data, and I'll see it, and I'll bring them on full time. So hiring today, I think, is so much project based. And I think the smart hiring engineers and the HR teams are ones that ignore the sort of traditional resume and where did you go to college, and they're actually putting challenging projects in front of potential candidates, seeing how the candidates respond and moving forward that way.
Yeah, it's interesting. We did a discussion with Toby Nebo, who was one of the recruiters from Automatic, and they hire totally distributed teams, and they talked there about the challenges that they have in running teams where a lot of the communication is asynchronous. So you need to be a really good communicator, and that's really good written communication. So they look for examples of that.
Yeah, you're going to continue to see a battle between synchronous and asynchronous communication, especially with the virus and people working remote. There's a lot of these tools like, one of the favorites I'm using right now, I always would find myself on my phone recording like voice text because it's quicker to just record your voice and send the voice clip versus texting. And there's this tool called Yak, Y-A-C, which does that for Teams. It's like a audio version of Slack. And so I think these tools are going to continue to get a ton of adoption.
Great. We'll find that. We'll put a link in the comments.
Sure.
Brilliant. And so have you seen any sort of common threads or common themes from CEOs about the challenges or from founders, around the challenges of hiring and how they've overcome them?
Again, most of the challenges have been where people brought someone on based off a resume or a recommendation versus actual talent projects done. So same answer, put projects in front of people and see how they perform.
Yeah, fantastic. And from a SaaS perspective, more sort of generally in the news, obviously Zoom going through a big phase at the moment. Who else do you admire right now in the SaaS space that's doing amazing things?
Oh man, you have to look at DiscoverOrg. I mean, they just went public on Thursday. It's the largest tech IPO this year in the States. This was by Henry Schuck. He found that when he was 23 in 2007 with his college dorm mate. They built it up to, $7-8 million in runway in about 4 or 5 years. And then in 2018 hit about $150 million in revenue before buying their biggest competitor, ZoomInfo, for $800 million last year, which took their ARR to $325 million before they went public last week at a $13 billion market cap. And they're both billionaires now, the founders. And you ask why? Well, they didn't raise a bunch of venture capital. They actually used a ton of debt, both in 2018 and 2019, to fund the ZoomInfo acquisition. So the founders I really respect right now are the ones that are realizing the funding game is changing. There's more cheap capital with all the central banks printing money right now. There's a lot of cheap capital available. And you can build a massive SaaS company without giving up and selling 90% of the business to venture capitalists. Yeah,
totally agree. I think there's this thing with any business, but I think with SaaS businesses more importantly, the recipes you need to succeed. I think a great idea, i.e., what problem are you solving? Capital, getting the capital to get to where you need to get to, and a great example of what you just spoke about there. And then also the people, having the right people in the team to be able to take your vision where it needs to go. It's an interesting time for business at the moment. Obviously, the strange times we're living in at the moment. But I think that ZoomInfo and DiscoverOrg deal sort of shows that even right now, smart businesses are still doing things, still finding opportunities, and that there's still growth ahead.
Yeah, there's definitely growth ahead. I mean, that acquisition happened pre-virus, but there is still, Sendbird right now is sitting on $109 million of cash from their last raise. And John is going, what do I do to spend this money to take advantage of cheaper prices at other SaaS companies right now? So again, generally speaking, simple businesses like chaos. Simple businesses can take advantage of volatility. Complex businesses get killed with volatility. So if you have built, Charlie Munger always says, him and Warren Buffett want to buy companies that are so easy to run that an idiot could run them, because one day one will. And so that's what I like, is when founders build something just dead simple, where it makes sense and they're executing like crazy, and that's what drives the growth.
And do you think a lot of that growth is fixing a simple problem, doing it really well, staying in niche, and then broadening out?
Yeah, this is most people when they start, the big mistake they make is they want to boil the ocean. I'm a big believer in you should go find a pool that only has 5 customers in it and monopolize that pool. Like get 100% domination in that one sector. And only after you get 100% domination in that sector, use that domination as leverage to spread out into other sectors that are super close. So no, I'm a big fan of monopolizing and then expanding.
Yeah, and I think again that tying into the theme of hiring, I think being able to tell compelling stories to potentially game-changing hires around how your business is focused, where you're going, having this very clear plan of what you want to dominate in, attracts the right like-minded people. So I think being very clear about who you are as a business, where you're going, and what you're doing, rather than we're trying to do all these things and hopefully one day we'll do one of them relatively well. I think that's good.
The people that are the most talented that you could ever get on your team do not care about how much equity they get or what cash you're going to pay them. They care about, like, is this founder projecting a massive vision, and do I want to be on that roller coaster or not? Yeah. So coming in and saying, we want to put someone on Mars. Well, that's an obvious statement, but like, how does that apply to B2B SaaS? Well, there's all kinds of B2B SaaS opportunities like this, where if the founder has the guts to put up this vision that seems impossible, you're going to attract talent that makes the impossible possible very quickly if you let them do their thing.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I think this, the people that say go to Mars, we're never going to go to Mars. They're not the people who are going to help you realize your vision. They're not the people who are inspired by this. I don't like using the word higher purpose, but a lot of business are trying to solve something that has a higher purpose. So if you're very clear about that, then attracting the right quality people who can help you get to where you need to go, obviously sort of makes sense. Fantastic. That was really cool. I think we've been in sort of about 15 minutes. That's pretty much what I wanted to clarify and just understand was that side of things. Mindful of your time. Quick one for our viewers and listeners. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, they can find me on Twitter at Nathan Latka.
Beautiful, fantastic. I sent you an email to get this call with you that listed out some metrics and some stuff we do. So that'll definitely happen. I'll send you a follow-up. Nathan, lovely to talk to you. Thank you so much. And when you're in Melbourne next, whenever that is, as I said in my email, dinner and drinks on us.
All right, Simon. Thanks for having me on. Take care.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Bye-bye.